So you hear about Anki as a pre-med student, and you heard of a lot of medical school students using Anki that perhaps used it pretty successfully. Now you wonder, how can I use that as a pre-medical student? Hey guys, it's Sean and welcome back to this channel. If you're new here, I'm currently a 4th year student at Rutgers University, majoring in exercise science on the pre-medical track. And today I'll be showing you guys how I use Anki as a pre-medical student. So what is Anki, you ask? Anki is basically a word in Japan that basically means memorization. Yes, memorization. And Anki is based on spaced repetition that basically sets up an algorithm of the amount of days they have to actually memorize the card and press the card so that you can see it again. But as you get the cards right over time, the interval that you see the card again increases. Now this interval can usually be edited through settings, and based on the interval you select, that's how long that card can set up over a maximum period of time. And in terms of learning curve, it's definitely pretty hard at first. Like, it's very, very, very different. And I would say compared to Quizlet, Anki is definitely much harder to use at first, but over time you definitely will get better at it, especially if you look at tutorials on YouTube or if you look at the manual that Anki provides on the website. And I would say after using Anki for a few months, you're definitely getting more and you'll be more used to Anki. But with that being said, let's head on to my computer where I show you guys more about the prefaces and the settings I can set on Anki. Alright, so this is my Anki on my laptop, and basically we're going to start off with the prefaces and settings. So in terms of the settings on the basic, in terms of prefaces, I don't really mess around with this too much. The only thing I worry about mostly is to put this onto night mode, and the reason I like night mode a lot is because it's just better for my eyes, and especially when doing Anki over long periods of time, your eyes will get strained, so I prefer night mode, but it doesn't really matter what you use in terms of that. Obviously the language you put in pretty obvious, make sure you put in the language you prefer into. And the user interface size is probably the most important thing on this section because this will define how large your words are going to look and how wide or how little Anki will look like. With this part of the settings, with the schedule part prefaces, again, I don't really mess around with this too much, but things to keep in mind is when do you want your next reviews to show up. So I just put that automatically at 4 hours past midnight, but you could also put this the time you wake up, or you could put this later in the day. Just depending on who you are and stuff. And this is also a pretty important part of the sentence because you can show new cards after review. This basically means that it will show your review cards first that you did from previous days, and after that you'll see new cards later. But you can also put it showing new cards before reviews, which is the opposite, and you can mix new cards and reviews such that you see both your review and your new cards at the same time. So now we're going to move on to options for a sub deck. This is actually my sub deck for Anki MCAT, which is basically a pre-med deck that people use for the MCAT. And there are a lot of important settings to keep in mind. Start off first with the daily limits. So here there are new cards to do per day and maximum reviews to do per day. And usually I set those to the max amount, and I just put 9999. And the reason why you want to put it the max amount is because that way there will be cards that will be showing to you at the same day. So for example, let's say we made 50 cards in one day. If you only have your settings set to 20 a day, there's only going to show 20 out of those 50 cards. So that means you're missing 30 cards already on the first day. So basically if you keep it at 20 cards per day, then the next set of 20 cards will show up. And then if you make new cards on another day, then 20 cards will only show up from that one deck, and then another 20 cards show up from the other deck. So basically what I'm saying is more cards will add up each time. So I just set it up to the max number because that way you see the amount of cards you're supposed to see when you make cards. For the new cards per day, of course setting it to the max is good, but it's fine to set it to a low number because sometimes there might be decks that are a little more extreme and a little bit more in volume. But the max reviews per day, I feel like non-negotiable, you should definitely set that to the maximum because you're losing reviews over time and it's not going to be compatible with the algorithm. So basically there's 3 stages of cars. One, the new cars. Basically new cars are when you only see those cars one time. They have the review cars when it's basically in between new cars and graduating cars, when it's between new cars and mature cars. So it's not quite there, but you basically see it a little bit at a shorter interval. And then finally, if you get that card right again, then you go to the mature cards, where basically over time, the interval will increase over time. So for the learning step, this basically means how much times they can show up again if you get the card wrong, and how much time that card shows up when you get the card right the first time. So if you get a card wrong, for example, then I have to wait 25 minutes for that card to show up again. But if I get the card right, then you can set up to 1 day. This one, it probably depends on the deck you use, but I like for this one because I feel like I'm not cheating on the card, and I'm not just remembering it just because I saw it like a few minutes ago. The graduate interval settings basically means that you're going from that stage where you saw the card the first, second time to now making that card mature. So I put it at 3 days. It just gives me enough time to again review it and for the card to show up just right when I forget it. And for the easy interval, I don't really mess it out too much, as basically when you put the card to easy, the interval your card shows up is going to be way more and you might actually forget it. But the only time I press easy is when the card is like extremely easy. But again, I rarely press easy at all. Right, these 2 settings for me don't really matter too much, but if you want to learn more about these settings, there are always a lot of videos you can watch on those. Now the Burien setting, I like this a lot because sometimes there will be cards that are very similar to each other and you don't want to see those cards at the same time, because if you see one section of card, then you're probably going to know the other section just because you saw it already. So I like burying those review cards because you only gonna see one section of card, and then it's gonna bury it to another day, so that you see 2 different cards, but they're within the same card, but you see them in 2 different days. And then the advanced settings over here, I don't really mess around too much. But again, if you want to know more about these settings, definitely watch tutorials on YouTube. But the one I definitely mess up with the most is the maximum interval. This basically means how long can the card go at max. So usually how I set this up is based on when I actually need to learn the material or when I'm being tested on the material. So for example, for the MCAT, I have it for 90 days because I'm planning on taking it in 3 months. So that way I'll be able to know the cards, and that way I'll be able to at least mature the cards once before I take the MCAT. But again, this depends whatever thing you're doing. But what I won't recommend though is putting in too long, because again, having a card, for example, over 270 days, I feel like that's way too much and it's not going to be really good. And as a result of that, you're not going to remember it. Alright, so now we're going to move on to the types of cards I like to make in Anki. So my favorite card to make as of right now is definitely the cloze deletion card, and it's basically more as a fill in the blank card. So for example, let's say if I type a word and if you want to close and delete the card, all you have to just do is highlight the card, and from there you can either press this to close delete the card, or you can press Control Shift and C, and that way it will close and delete the card essentially. You can also include hints in the card. So let's say, for example, we want to add the word animal to use as a hint for our cat. So all you just do is put 2 colons, and then you could just type whatever hint you want to put. So let's say if I put animal. Now, when I add this card, it will show the word animal first before I press the space bar, and then it will show cat. And I like this card much better than the basic, because the basic card is more of a front and back. So as you can see in the basic card, there's only a front and back and it's basically just like your regular flashcard. So whenever you put in front, will be in the front, and whenever you put in the back, will be in the back. So also one of my favorite cards to do is called the image occlusion, and basically this is a card that you could hover shapes over the words you want to block out, so that when you see that card, it will block out a certain part of the word, and from there, if you press the spacebar, then it will reappear the card again. From there, if you press the spacebar, then it will show the word again that you're trying to block. So for example, let's say if you want to block the word community, you could just hover it and cover community. If you press hide all guess one, it will hide every card except for the card they're trying to guess. And then if you hide one guess one, then it will only block that one section that you're trying to find out. I feel like the best time to use this card is definitely when you see like a figure on a textbook or somewhere when you're doing practice, and it's easier because you don't have to like type it out or you don't have to insert a picture. You could just basically put the picture here and basically just hover whatever words or stuff you want to block. Alright, so the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is add-ons, and the first thing is how to add add-ons is all you have to just do is you can either browse the add-on you want to get and try to get the number, or you could just press get add-ons and you can search it. Now I'm not going to review all the add-ons here, but I'm just going to mention some of my favorite add-ons I like to use. Now the first add-on I'm going to show you guys is the Anki simulator, and this basically tells you how often you get your reviews correct. And basically you can simulate how much reviews you get right over time. And I think this is really good because once you can see how many correct you might get at a time, you can sort of adjust the settings and see, do I need to do more cards a day or do I need to do less cards a day? The second type of add-on I like to use is the heat map, and this basically tells you how much reviews you've done, and it also tells you how much cards you did in a certain day. And the good thing about this add-on is that if you click on a specific day, you can see the types of cards that are coming up. So this is good because you can do sort of like a custom review, and you can review cards the day before so that you best prepare for that day. The third type of add-on I like to use is the custom background and gear icon, and the reason why I like to have this is because I do not want to look at a blank Anki. It makes it more doable to do the reviews every day, and it's very easy to add a background. I'll just say the one thing to make sure is to definitely have a transparent photo. Definitely have a transparent photo. And the reason why is because if you don't, then it's going to be harder to see your reviews and the background might block those cars. And honestly, there are several videos out there on YouTube that shows you how to add a background or add gear. And the last add-on I usually like to use is the hierarchical tags. And this is good when you get a deck from online and it doesn't tag the cards. And what I mean by tags is you can basically add a specific word to each card, and if you want to review it later, then all you have to just do is go to that specific tag, and that way you can review those cards easier and you don't have to scroll through each card to review different cards. So basically the purpose of hierarchical tags is you will have tags in a deck that didn't have tags before. Alright, that marks the end of this video, so thank you guys so much for watching, and definitely make sure to share this around to other people who wants to use Anki or who is interested in using Anki, and make sure to give this video a like so that it helps with the YouTube algorithm, and make sure you also comment down below on what are you looking most forward to this semester, as we're pretty much halfway for most schools. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.